As you can see, there are 5 needs of humans that Maslow has categorized into a pyramid based on a hierarchy. The very basic needs are your physiological needs: eating, sleeping. Then safety, social needs, esteem, which would be your own self-esteem, how you see yourself, and then finally self-actualization. Today, we will be focusing on the bottom half of this pyramid, mainly on physiological needs and safety of children and how it affects their classroom learning. When working with 4 and 5-year-old students, the hierarchy of needs should be taken into consideration as a top concern every day. Many times, preschoolers' basic needs take over when they are unable to focus on tasks that are placed in front of them. It is difficult for anyone to focus when they are hungry or tired, when they are concerned about the safety of their environment, but for a young child, it is virtually impossible. One in 5 children struggle with hunger nationwide, and 6 out of 10 teachers report students regularly coming to school hungry. This is a problem in the United States. If a child comes into a center hungry, it is sometimes necessary to give him or her a snack before mealtime. In addition, it is necessary to allow for sufficient sleep for the children that we teach. In an elementary or secondary education classroom, there are not as many options in helping the children to obtain that sufficient amount of sleep. However, in an early learning center and in a preschool classroom, that is something that is a possibility. We follow state regulations at our center that each child must rest for at least 2.5 hours. Most of our 4 and 5-year-olds still sleep during this time. Sleep can affect children's ability to learn, as well as their emotional balance and behavior in a classroom. An even harder concept to grasp is a child that is worried about his or her parents' safety, or his own safety, or the safety of the community in which he lives. These children exhibit problems emotionally and behaviorally in class, and their test scores are often lower than other students. The needs of these children are much harder to meet than the child who is tired in class or the child who is hungry, but it is necessary to address these needs before learning can take place. I had the opportunity to speak with Rachel regarding these issues and to get her insight on what she did as a classroom teacher and now as an early learning center director to address or prevent the problems that a child may face when his or her basic needs are not being met. I asked Rachel how Maslow's hierarchy of needs affected her classroom while she was a teacher. She stressed the importance of taking care of children's basic needs. She said that this was a trait she saw most in her low socioeconomic students, the lack of their basic needs being met. With even her second grade students, she said that it was very hard for them to focus when they were more concerned with the safety of their homes or hadn't eaten anything other than what they were provided at school. I asked her how she handled this when she was teaching at the school. She said she was in tune to these issues and tried to be sensitive to the needs of the children. If there was a child who was overly tired in class, she would allow him or her to put his or her head down on the desk during periods of free time. She would also allow for brain breaks during very long or vigorous lecture times. That way, it would not only benefit the child that was tired, but also the other children in the classroom. Sometimes children just need a break. She said if a child was hungry, she would allow snacks in her classroom. She tried to limit the amount of snacking that went on and tried to limit all of the snacking to healthy options. She didn't allow this all the time, but felt that it was a good option when it was necessary. She kept snack-sized bags of pretzels in her classroom for the students that didn't have snacks of their own that they could snack on during these time periods. If you think about it, many college professors allow snacking in their classroom. And I don't think that it distracts the college students, but more it enhances their ability to learn. So maybe this is a concept that we need to start bringing into elementary or secondary education classes. Just basically taking care of those basic needs that most of the time we can't really do in a classroom. I asked her how she would handle the issue of a child being afraid to go home because they aren't sure what they're going to go home to. She said that there wasn't much that she could do unless there was a suspected abuse, in which case she has reporting responsibilities and she would follow that protocol. But in the case of a child who wasn't being abused, but maybe just didn't have, that, like the extra meals, or maybe wasn't getting their needs met quite the same way as the other students in her classroom, she said the most important thing to do with any child is to build a relationship with them. This helps the child to feel safe at school, which gives them a comfort that may not be present at home. I also wanted to know how Rachel handled the issue of meeting basic needs at the Early Learning Center in the role of director. She said that it is just as important for her to focus on the basic needs of the children as it is for her staff. So she explained that she has set a procedure in place for the students that are not having their basic needs met. She's not speaking of students that are in abusive households or students that are not being fed at all. She's more speaking about the student that maybe didn't get that extra snack before bedtime, or the child that maybe got an hour less of sleep because they were a little too wired the night before and not able to fall asleep. So I asked what the procedure actually entailed. She said that it depends on the classroom and the classroom ages. All the classrooms are equipped with cozy cubbies. A cozy cubby is a small cubby with open sides that students can occupy for a short period of time when they need a break or if they're really exceptionally tired. In the 1 and 2 year old rooms, she said that when the students arrive, especially if they need a very short nap, that is okay. In the 3 and 4 year old classes, she discourages that because those classrooms are actually meant to help the children adjust to a classroom environment, as they will be going to elementary school after they leave the center when they turn 5 and go to kindergarten. So she discourages that, and her teachers follow her lead. So in that case, they can still go into the cozy cubby and just take a little break. They just aren't really supposed to fall asleep during that time period. Of course, exceptions are always made if a child's sick and they need that extra sleep because they're not feeling well. In the case of hunger, she stated that all classrooms provide snack to the children after a nap time, and all classrooms have a schedule. In that schedule are scheduled meal and snack times, so breakfast, lunch, and then snack. The children are encouraged to eat together during those meal times, because it promotes proper table skills and casual conversations that they might not get otherwise. Some of the children do not eat formal meals at home, so this is an opportunity for them to learn formal table skills that they might not otherwise learn. But if there are periods where the child is very hungry and really just needs something to eat, they can be offered a snack if that's necessary. They are given a snack once a day after nap time, as I said before, and that's provided by the center. But she said in the case of an extra snack being needed, the center would also provide one of those. They do provide healthy snacks. Some examples of the snacks that they provide at the center include applesauce, pretzels, yogurt when available, plain Cheerios, different snacks along those lines. And also, if the child packs a large lunch or packs an extra snack anyhow, they could always get that snack out of their lunchbox if they would prefer, instead of eating one of the center snacks. So as far as the processes that I plan to bring into my classroom and ultimately my center that I would like to open are basically, I agree with Rachel that whether I'm a classroom teacher or an early learning director, I feel like the connection with a child is very important to help the child feel safe, to help the child feel comfortable and excited to come to school every day. I find that a relationship with my students is just as important or more so than the curriculum that I teach each day. I stress often that my goal as a teacher is to allow my students to become productive members of society. I feel as though teaching them how to forge relationships with people is a very important skill that they will need to know for the rest of their lives, and it will definitely help them to become more productive members of society in the future. I plan to keep working toward these connections, either as a classroom teacher or as an early learning center director. I have had many opportunities to think of what I would do as a classroom teacher in an elementary or secondary education classroom. In this instance, I've thought of brain breaks before, and I think that these are very beneficial to students, and they are definitely going to help the child that is having a problem staying awake in class. I think that especially during very tedious activities, mainly lectures, especially in a high school setting, I feel like these brain breaks can be very beneficial to keep the classroom on task and to keep them all in a uniform style of learning. So everybody's getting that same opportunity to focus. Even when they have a problem focusing, sometimes that little break can give them a little bit of their focus back. The snacks are a really good idea in a classroom. I honestly hadn't thought of that, especially for an elementary education classroom. In my mind, both of these options were something that would work better for a middle or high school classroom. However, Rachel had an example of how this worked great in her second grade class. So I feel like it would definitely be something to implement and see how it worked. And I also would be very interested to see if there were other teachers that had similar results. I also really like the idea of providing a procedure for my staff to follow in an early learning center regarding the basic needs of the children. I feel as though early learning center staff a lot of times is not equipped with the knowledge to really know what's going on inside a child when they're not having their basic needs met. A lot of times early learning center staff has not been trained and educated in education, elementary, secondary, or early learning. A lot of times, the staff that comes in there is staff that has babysat or staff that has been working in an early learning center for quite some time but has never really had that official training. So I think that even though they might not have that background to know when to recognize that something along these lines is the actual underlying problem, if they're given a plan put in place that says, if you have a cranky child, here are the things I want you to check, I think that most people could follow a plan along those lines. I think that that would definitely be something that, if in place and really utilized, could help to avoid or correct problems that were very simple. Basically, the child's hungry, the child's tired, and that's why they are having a rough day. And so if there's a plan in place to help them figure out how to overcome the basic problems, I think then we could have a much smoother running classroom.